Furries. I was one. I could never decide on a fursona, so I'd have a new one like every week. I had a dino mask, fluffy paws, the whole getup for a 12-year-old that couldn't afford to buy a full fursuit or get the materials and energy to make one. I stepped out of the furry fandom when I was like 14, but for the thumbnail I drew my first furry after what, like 2 or 3 years now? But today I'm going to jump back into the fandom and the discussion around it, so I hope you watch till the end to gather my full thoughts. Hey dudes, it's Brie, and I usually do art commentary like this as well as just art in general, so if that's what you like, make sure to stick around. And if you're a subscriber of mine, you're probably wondering why I made this video. I only talk about art, right? So furries? Is that even art related? Well, yes it is. Aside from furry art in general, the costumes and designs are also in the art category in my book, so I'm counting furries as an art topic. Plus, many of my subscribers wanted me to discuss this, and since it's an interesting topic to discuss, I decided to. Anyway, I don't hate furries actually. I actually have a massive respect for those who can create and design entire costumes, and gosh darn it, it must be exhausting to sit in a suit that feels like you're in literal hell due to how hot it is. My best friend's a furry. I have many furry artists that I love. All the furries I've met are the sweetest people ever. So the short answer to the title is no. The long answer is no, just kidding. That was a TMNT reference. The actual long answer is going to be explained throughout this video, as you can guess. This part was very unnecessary, but I had to add the reference, so sorry not sorry. The self-proclaimed furry hunters are going to come after me in the comments, I'm sure of it. Wait, do they still call themselves that? I saw them a lot in 2020 to 2021, but do they actually still refer to themselves as that? Or do they grow out of the ridiculously embarrassing title and just say furry haters? Actually, who cares? No matter what label they have, they'll always be annoying in my eyes. But I'll get back to those cornballs in a bit. I think it's okay to find furries cringe or weird or dislike them, but that's an opinion that you shouldn't have to affect others with. Sure, make your own videos expressing your dislike on the topic or talk about your dislike for it in general. That's okay, it's your opinion. But it's a huge problem when you go around hating on furries directly or dragging them into your videos to laugh at them. Furries are literally just people who like to dress up as or draw humanized animals. And the hate is crazy. It's one of the most hated fandoms I've seen. It's insane. Some people have went as far as to say if they think they're an animal, we should put them down like one. Which, what the heck? It is actually disgusting to say that type of stuff, and how can you even say that and not feel anything whatsoever? And I'll get into the whole misconception that furries think that they're animals later on. And you might argue that there's a weird side of the fandom, but that's like every fandom. No matter what fandom you're in, there's a weird side. So basing your opinions on all furries due to seeing a couple oddballs in the bunch is kind of dumb in my opinion. And I've seen many people say that all furries are weirdos, which isn't true at all. You haven't met every furry, so how would you know if every single one of them was a weirdo? You don't. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the adult-centered content surrounding furries, but I will mention it as it is a very big factor in furry hate, but I'm sure there are many creators willing to discuss that side more in depth. But for a small tidbit of my opinion, I do see why some may be uncomfortable with it, but it isn't an excuse for harassment. Many people think of that side of the fandom when they think of furries, but that's just one side of the community. And literally every community and fandom has NSFW. So why is it different here? Is it a bit weird to many? Sure, and that's understandable. I get uncomfortable with anything from that realm, but I'm not going to go out and harass people about it. I'm just going to respectfully keep my distance from that side of the internet and mind my business. The only time I'd view that content as bad is if it was easily accessible to kids, like if they aren't putting in the time and effort to make sure kids cannot access it, or if it's just gross material like non-con. But overall, just block it when you see it if it makes you uncomfortable. Interacting will just make it show up more, which I'll actually talk about the interacting now. Being a furry in general is just a harmless hobby, and if it's not hurting anybody unless the person behind it is actually a bad person outside their hobby, I don't think it's deserving of hate. And if you really hate furries, why not just scroll or block them? I've seen so many people say things like, why am I on the furry side of insert platform? Well, maybe that's because, and this might be a crazy theory, but it might be due to the fact that you're interacting with the post. It's as simple as that. How do you guys not understand? Like, genuinely, if you're commenting hate under a post, the algorithm is going to feed you more of it since it sees you interacting. So you're just doing that to yourself. Also, commenting on the furry hate, it's honestly so dumb. A lot of the haters I've seen will just comment furry under a post, like, huh? How is commenting furry an insult? Like, what? Congratulations, I guess? You figured it out! Next, you need to figure out what a real insult is, because oh my gosh, I get secondhand embarrassment about how dumb you guys sound. Also, barking at furries? The haters are usually the ones barking, not the furries, which I find so funny. I love to call people who bark at me or others furries, like that'll piss them off real quick. But like, you call them animals just for a costume, but you're the ones acting feral. They also say being a furry as a kid ruins the kids' childhoods, as if 90% of people didn't pretend to be animals while playing when they were younger. So many kids pretended to play animals, but when they have the label furry, it's suddenly bad. Like when I was 4, I did pageants. I did those things for years, but they'd always have a performance thing where kids could sing and dance or do whatever, but I decided for my little performance in a pageant was to crawl around and bark like a dog in a costume. While that one nursery rhyme that goes something like, How much is that doggy in the window? Or something played, and the crowd ate that up. They thought I was adorable, and you know what? I was. Though onto the topic of furry hunters, which I mentioned earlier, they were primarily on TikTok from what I saw, though I'm not sure if they were on other platforms because I really only used TikTok and occasionally watched YouTube at the time, so I don't know. But these people were trending around 2021, I think. I've got no idea, I've forgotten, but maybe even earlier. Most of them were kids around the age of 12, but some were full-grown adults, and they would do up furry posts and have their little Nerf gun in hand while saying nerdy crap like, "Come on boys, let's get 'em." And majority of the furries that they duetted were kids, so adults that did participate in this were just bullying kids, which is pretty pathetic. You bully these kids, but at least their hobby is more creative and eventful than going online holding a Nerf gun. It was actually embarrassing. But with the furry haters comes a bit on the reason of why furries are hated. And it's not just with the fact that they think they're weird, but there are actually some misconceptions that gathered furries so much hate. And the first misconception being zoos. No, not the place we look at animals, zoophiles. Zoos are people who like animals a bit too much, and they're honestly disgusting people who should be kept miles away from animals. What the big problem is the misconception that furries are zoos, which is entirely false. Now there are zoos that are furries, but furries are not zoos. Many furries literally have a deep hatred for zoos, and this misconception is why there are so many furry haters. Furries are animals with human characteristics. Furries are also those who like to draw or cosplay as furries. Zoos, like I said, are people who like to do some inappropriate things with animals. It is the most disgusting thing, I know, but you cannot lump furries into that group. To falsely accuse people of things like that solely because they just like to draw silly drawings of humanoid animals or cosplay as them is just disgusting. You are actually a horrible person if you do that crap. It is beyond insulting, and to falsely throw a title as serious as that around is gross. Like, if you actually call furries that and come near me, I'm pulling out the raid. Now, the YouTuber The Mean Bean Zone does a very well-made video on the difference between the two, so I strongly suggest you go to their video for an amazing explanation. Now to the next big misconception that has led to the reason of furries getting so much hate, and that is the fact that they think that furries believe that they're actually animals, which no. Furries cosplay as animals, but do not believe that they are animals. That's like saying a cosplayer thinks that they're the character that they're dressing up as. I see so many videos that are saying stuff like, oh, the furries want litter boxes. Okay, maybe a few goofballs out there want to do that, but it's not all furries. Most would probably actually find that disgusting and weird like you guys. And I believe that they are thinking of Therians, which is a completely different thing. And no, for the Therians out there watching this, I am not saying you guys poop in boxes, but I'm talking about the whole concept that you believe you're an animal. I don't know much on Therians, nor do I understand them really, so I won't give an opinion on them. But they're basically people who identify as an animal on a spiritual or psychological level, I think. Though I'm really not sure, so please inform me more in the comments, but that's basically what the definition online said. But the point is that they're definitely not the same as furries. Therians can be furries, but not all furries are Therians. So overall, with these misconceptions, a lot of furry hate stems from misinformation. So it's important to spread awareness on the differences so people are not getting misinformed and are hating on innocent people who aren't even doing what they're accusing them of. It's sad to see just an overall chill and nice community gather so much hate. Like, I rarely meet a mean furry, and there are almost always makes me want to eat it with the absolute eye candy it is. Being a furry is just a fun hobby that I find cool. If you hate furries, that's fine, but don't let your opinion affect others by dragging them in the comments, DMs, or your videos. Also, something funny I just want to note is that some people genuinely believe furries use actual animals to make their suits, which was so funny to me, because I'd see people be like, "You're horrible for hurting the animals to make your suits." Like, guys, it's fake. It's not real fur. No animals are harmed in the making of those suits. I thought people were joking when they said that at first, but no, they were serious. So I can assure you guys, majority of fursuits you see do not actually use animal fur. And honestly, this video pretty much has a similar conclusion to my last video on cringe culture, which is if it isn't hurting anybody, it's not a problem. What others like to do isn't hurting anybody, just because they're weird to you doesn't make them deserving of literal harassment. If you don't like it, block or scroll so you aren't getting more of it. If the furry isn't doing anything actually wrong and they're just a person with a hobby, leave them be. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, I strongly suggest subscribing if you haven't. And check out my other videos. Comment your opinions and future video ideas. And as usual, here are my brush codes I used in today's video. And with that, love your art, love yourself, and love others. Bye!